Burnout's going to come very quickly if you don't rest. With you, no matter how much you enjoy your job, you need to rest.
Integrating your life is like, it's a big topic. Some people call it work-life balance. Some people, I like the word integration because I don't think there is such thing as balance.
I like to get things done and I move on. Get things done, move on. So because the client doesn't care if something is 90% done, because client can't use something that's 90% done. I mean, there has to be intention. You can't just do things and hope for the best. That's a recipe for disaster. If you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. So
Yeah.
you have to give everyone their due. I mean, if your client is paying you for a service, as long as you agree to terms on certain deadlines, if you've promised a certain thing, that means you've committed to it.
Uwais Asmal, while I was prepping for this meeting, putting my makeshift podcast studio together, there's actually chairs here. I've actually had to move things off this desk. I was thinking about how to introduce you. Why? We've got a background. I met you in 2019. I know that you're a chartered accountant. You're a runner. You're a father. But all those things, I guess, someone could discover if they had to do enough stalking about you. I would love to know if one of your friends, your very good friends, had to introduce you, what would they say about Uwais Asmal? What would they say about this gentleman, this father, this chartered accountant, this business owner? What would they introduce you as?
Starting off with the trick questions, I see. But I guess they would say it's not what you expect. It doesn't talk about the same thing that everybody else talks about. It's a little bit of a nerd, and he gets things done. I guess so, in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Busy with a whole lot of different things and trying to do a whole lot of different things and succeeding at some and not succeeding at some things, but keep pushing and keep going.
I like it. I even learned a little bit about not speaking about the things that people usually speak about. I think that's what you said at the beginning. What are some of the things that you speak about that's unusual?
So what I notice is, like, especially in social spaces, people like talking about random things, casual conversation. Like, people like talking about people. I like talking about business. I like talking about, I don't know, how do you make money here? How do you? I like talking about investments. I like talking about things that not a lot of people find interesting, or certain people don't find interesting. So I don't always connect with many people, but the people that I do connect with, it's always an interesting conversation.
I can attest to that. That's so true. You've got a knack for having a pulse on trends, but also social conversations, but also impactful conversations. So what I mean by that is the fact that you are a chartered accountant, you like running, you also have a marketing brain and a business brain. You're not your typical CASA, like, unfortunately, from what I know, chartered accountants are quite, boxed, which is probably not true. But for the most part, they are very boxed and don't seem to be that adventurous. And to be honest with you, Uwais, when I first met you, even the way you dress, the way you talk, you fitted that mold really well, right? And then I got to know you. The fact that you've been to VCon in the US, how? The fact that you've got a personal brand that makes a lot more music than mine and other marketers in the world is amazing. And the fact that you're a runner, so I get it. How, maybe let me backtrack. You've got your own business, you've worked in, corporates, you've got, You've had many titles. Besides all those titles, like, who was Uwais before the titles? Because I asked that question because I'm curious on how you've become so multiverse. Who was Uwais before all those titles?
It's an interesting question, and it's a bit of a deep question, but I don't think there's a fixed answer. Always is a work in progress. Always trying new things. The reason there's certain people who know a lot about a little, so they're very focused. I'm someone who likes to know a little about a lot. So
Mm.
I bring in information from different places. Like when I was in high school, I used to love the PSL, the local South African soccer league. So I used to buy the magazines. I knew the players. I followed it. Obviously, I like the English Premier League and everything, but so I fanboyed on the names. I was anything PSL. I don't really watch it anymore, but there's certain things that I'd like, or random things like when in high school we used to watch Generations and Isidingo and all those things that everybody used to do in high school. But like, and it all seems like random things. But I do random things. Like if some things don't really make sense. Like I used to work in December holidays. One year I worked in Durban Central Town, and one year I worked in a small town in Kroonstad in the Free State in December holidays. But every holidays I was working somewhere. I was always doing something, going somewhere, not necessarily hustling, but working. And yeah, I wasn't an entrepreneur. I've never been an entrepreneur. I've always been a worker. And things have just kind of developed. And it's just like, ooh, that looks interesting. Let's try that. Try it. If it goes well, we keep going. If it doesn't go well, okay, let's change tack. Let's do something else and see what's interesting. And we'll do that for a while and find out what's interesting. And then we'll every year something new. Every trying something different, learning something new. That's the fun part of it.
Brilliant. You made a very interesting comment that you were always a worker. And it segues quite nicely to what I want to discover as a young entrepreneur, aspiring to a certain amount of success, but also aspiring to have a healthy relationship personally. The focus around, integrating your life is like, it's a big topic. Some people call it work-life balance. Some people, I like the word integration because I don't think there is such thing as balance, right? Have you ever tried to go on a seesaw? You know those seesaws? Have you ever, you probably played with them on a kid. Even if you like, how difficult is to get it balanced? Like, do you remember? Like, it's so hard versus what we did. We just try to integrate play. Like we try to get each other off, right? So the analogy around balance or this phenomenon around balance, I think, is a bit flawed. But I'm keen to understand your integration around family, personal life, and business. But going back to you saying that you've always been a worker, what made you take the leap into starting your own business?
So I guess I work for a business for a very a startup that's been growing for the last few years, and as the CFO. But what has happened is, okay, there's a couple of questions in there, but in terms of being working, it's just I have a certain, let's call it, pace that I work at. Not not because I'm trying to. I'm just doing things. I'm not trying to work hard. I'm just like, okay, this needs to get done. Let's get it done. I'm not tempering my I'm trying to learn to temper my efforts, but otherwise I'm just constantly going. So we get things done. I've always been just like, okay, this needs to get done. Let's get it done. It doesn't matter if it takes somebody 2 hours and it took me 20 minutes, or it takes someone 2 hours, no, and it takes me 4 hours. I'm just doing it the best way that I can do it. So that's from a working point of view. And in terms of, you mentioned balance. Balance is a misnomer because it implies like 50-50. For me, balance could even be 90-10 or 80-20, as long as both sides are happy. And I've got a wife and 4 kids, so it's not easy to find time to. So you have to be you have to set the time. And I'm a little bit of a I like my routines. So once I get into the routines, it's I keep up the routine, but it's also a lot about communication. So I try to work like 8 to 5, maybe 8 to 6 in the week, and I might do extra here or there. And on the weekends, my wife knows one of the days I work off the days doing content creation or doing something, research, whatever it is. So one of the days I know I'm going to work off a day. The wife knows I have another day where I take the kids to, or another off the day where I take the kids to play soccer because I'm coaching a soccer team for them. And then there's always one day that I take one day off. I must take one day off because otherwise you have to rest. No matter how good no matter how much you enjoy your job, you need to rest. And you can do it for like you can go a couple of months of not doing that, but burnout's going to come very quickly if you don't rest. So I try
Yeah.
to. I've even gotten to a stage where I like try to break up every half an hour of my day, but that started getting messy. And you're like, no, you can't get to that level. It's like, okay, this is where I am at this time, at this time, at this time. But that I think was a bit too far. So trying to make sure that this is the type of schedule having open. So I'm always very open in terms of communication with my wife. She knows when certain things are happening,
Mm.
but like I do a LinkedIn live on a Thursday. She knows that happens every Thursday at 5 o'clock. But I will chat to her on the Thursday again and just remember I've got a live at this time because people get busy and they forget things. Or I know I have to pick up the kids. I'll go pick up the kids and do this, or I have to do that. But it's always about keeping communication open and not assuming that somebody's going to remember. So playing open cards, communicating because you also, I mean, well, with me and my wife, we're a team. She's good at certain things and I'm good at other things. And she picks up for my flaws and I pick up for her flaws. So as long as we work together, obviously there's going to be conflict every now and then. But as long as you work together, you get through most things.
100%. So you have a family, and how big is your family?
I've got 4 kids, 3 girls
Wow.
and a boy. That's a lot.
Wow, 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 you waste. Okay, so there was a decision to build an army, and there was a decision to be a very successful businessman. Throughout that journey, when you first had your first child to, you've got your fourth child, you seem to, of course, you had to make decisions. Like, it's not that you seem to have made decisions. You seem to say that, you had that open communication. And you must have had moments that you questioned if you're making the right decision, right? Like, probably, yes, yes. What was the biggest sacrifice you've made so far on your journey? And
So,
from a personal standpoint, like, what did you have to, like, and it was for you, before you had a family, maybe even maybe before you had a wife. What was that, if you look back, what was that one thing you knew you wanted to do in your life, but then things changed because this new journey came?
I don't think there's a big sacrifice, and I'll explain why. So I don't think there's a decision uh, that is 100% right or 100% wrong. There's every decision you make has a little bit of both. Some might be a lot more than others, but there's learnings from every decision. And I would almost think I think I'm a lot more like like I said, I've always been a hard worker, but I'm a lot more motivated now than I was. Let's call it 5 or 10 years ago. Or yeah, 10, definitely more motivated than 10 years ago. And I think having that family has been part of the reason to motivate me. It's like, okay, we need to support the family, need to figure out how to increase, how to build things and how to grow. So I mean, it's part of the motivation. I work hard and I push because of that. If you were to push me and say, what is there really something that I must start? I don't think there's anything. The only thing is like a lot of my the people like they moved after articles or during they moved to Joburg to get the big jobs and the big salaries. And once I had kids, I was past this stage. But I'm actually quite happy where I am. So I'm not. I don't have regrets. Like I should have moved to Joburg or I should have done this and I'd be at a bigger salary. It's just a different decision and a choice that I've made. And I'm happy
Mm.
with the choice that I've made.
So it's beautiful that you say you don't have regrets. And yeah, regret can haunt you for the rest of your life. So it's hard to live by that standard, but it definitely is one to try and uphold. But I'm going to dig deeper. If you then, in hindsight, you've got 4 kids, I know you're also dealing in different investments and other things outside of just being a businessman. If you had to start again, and again, you're speaking in hindsight, if you had to start again, what would you do differently? But also pat yourself on the back on what you did, what you're happy that you did that got you here.
So I know exactly what I do differently. So like you said, I'm an accountant. So whether you believe it or not, I'm an introvert. So
Okay.
networking was not my natural state of mind. It's something I had to learn to. I had to build on it, work on it, and improve it. And chatting to people, I'm not a natural at conversing. So that's something I had to grow. I didn't network much when I started working. So I didn't create more or better connections with the people that I started working with. And that's the nice thing about being a chartered accountant. I worked at a big four audit firm, and you start with like 60 people who are all starting at the same time. So you're all in the same place, and you make good connections with people. But I didn't. I wish I had invested more in terms of networking with those people, because all of us are generally in good positions in our careers. Some are directors, some are entrepreneurs, some are have very senior roles. So they've come quite far, and I can pick up the phone to quite a few of them. But I wish I'd started networking and started learning about business before. Before I was very like, and accountants can be very black and white. You do this and you do this and you do this and this happens. But as business is very different. There's you learn. You don't like to make mistakes as an accountant. Whereas in business, you realize you have to test things and you're going to be wrong about certain things, and that's fine. And that's how you learn. I had to get over that. So I think getting over that, I think, is something that I would pat myself on the back for, because there's certain accountants who never get over that. They are like, it's black and white. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I mean, I can't be wrong because I'm an accountant, and it affects the person that I am. So I would pat myself on the back for that. Just learning to be okay with
Nice.
making mistakes.
Yeah, true. Something that came to mind is you can have anything, but not everything at the same time, right? So with you sharing, what you would have done differently, and networking being one of the things, but I would love to flip the coin, because there's some people who probably did network, but they must have maybe had short sight on other things that they could have done better, which you're probably in the position to say that you've done. And I'm generalizing, but what did you think that you did right during that time at Articles, or personally during that time when you were in the Big Five, compared to what someone else who might have said, okay, let me do networking, and that's what they can sing home about? What do you think you did right?
I think learning to get things done. So when you do something, you
Mm,
finish it and then you move on. There's a lot of people who do things like 90%. They're almost done with 500 things, but they're actually not done with any of it. So because the client doesn't care if something is 90% done, because client can use something that's 90% done. I like to get things done and I move on. Get things done, move on. And learning to just, and that becomes a flywheel. It's just like it builds on itself. You do something and then you become known for somebody is for getting things done. So you just keep getting things done. And if you make mistakes, it's okay, because you're going to get the next things done and the next thing done and the next thing done. And all of a sudden, it just becomes part of who you are.
I love that. I love that. I love that. It is so good. I love that because it speaks to the generation I come from. Instant gratification, access to a lot. Um, you know, in some sense, people talk about my generation being entitled. With all that in mind, I do. personally struggle to sometimes get things done because there's a lot of things on my plate, and there's a lot of things that I want. Over time, having run my own business, clients don't respect things that are not done. So I had to learn the hard way. Um, but it's interesting to hear that, yeah, through your time as a, in the big five, those environments allow for that because there's hyper focus, right? Or at least there's structural corporate structure for you to not have to worry about customer service, sales. You're like, they call it a cog in a wheel that gets work handed to you on your table, get it done, and it has to move on to the next person. If it's not done, you're the bottleneck. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And that's a great skill to have. Okay. Segueing in deeper into work life, because I don't have a family. There'll be some people listening who don't have a family, but you have a family. But what we share is this professional life. You understand high demanding clients. I understand high demand clients. But I know family must be quite demanding too. And you probably can allude to the question, do you manage it? How do you manage it? Or is it just something that you integrate? Both business and family demands.
So there has to be, there has to be intention. You can't just do things and hope for the best. That's a recipe for disaster. If you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. So
Yeah.
the you have you have to give everyone their due. I mean, if your client is paying you for a service, as long as you agree to terms on certain deadlines, if you've promised a certain thing, that means you've committed to it, and you've accepted that it's a reasonable time to do it. So you should be able to do it. Obviously, there's things do happen, but those are exceptions. They shouldn't be the rule. Like people get sick and family members pass away, and those are exceptions. And you can have conversations with clients for those exceptions, but not for the general rule. So if you agree to deliver something by a certain time in a certain manner, that deliver it at that time because that's part of your reputation. If you don't, you shouldn't expect them to come back to you. And if you deliver it beforehand or on time, then that grows your reputation, and they might talk about you to someone else, and that's how you grow your business. So if you promise something, deliver it at that stage. And because first impressions, but also general, like if people believe your word, if you commit to what you promised, and you deliver what you actually promised. But if you don't, you're destroying your own reputation, and you're not going to get business going forward.
And how does that translate to the family side? Because yes, I understand that. I think a lot of people understand that if you don't hold up your bargain on the client side, it's quite plainly they're not going to pay you or they'll fire you as a client. But the demands of a family, right? How do you manage that? So you talk about having intention, being intentional. What does that practically look like?
So again, it's a bit of a team. It's a bit of a teamwork. My wife and I do it together. She does a lot of I do the dropping off in the morning, and she'll pick them up from school, and then she'll drop them at some extramurals, and I'll pick them up from some extramurals. But that's all scheduled in my calendar. Then is making sure we spend time at the supper table every night together, helping with homework where we can. My wife's got more patience than I do when it comes to homework, so she generally does that unless it's to do with maths or something like that. But yes, having an understanding, they know that I work one morning on the weekends. When I initially started, they weren't all that happy, but after seeing the fruits of because I've been doing this extra work for years now, so after seeing the fruits of the labor, they're like, okay, there's benefit to for Uwais hiding in his room and getting work done. We can see the benefits. Let's let him do his thing. Don't bother him. Give him a break. But then when I'm with him, I try to spend, and that can be a little bit difficult. Look, I'm like anyone. I'm on my phone every now and then. I can sit and sometimes I want to doom scroll after a long day of work. I try to be focused, and that's probably something that every now and then that I do fail at, is being fully present with the family all the time, that can be a bit of a struggle. Like I do it for a bit, and then I need to after a while I need to chill and just relax and so we spend time and we chat at supper. After supper, I spend a little bit of time with myself. So I try to make sure I spend time with everyone. Um, but I don't spend my whole evening because you need to decompress from the day. You need to, like I said, I'm an introvert, so I run out of conversation. My conversation points drop very quickly. It's like, okay, now I need to spend some time with myself just to recharge. Otherwise, I'm going to lose my mind. Or I go for
Yeah,
a run.
yeah,
That also helps because I mean, you have to take care of yourself. If you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anyone else.
sure. That is super powerful. It's so true. You got to fill your own cup to let it overflow to fill those who are immediately important and then the extended. Guilt. I felt when you spoke about you doom scrolling or not being as present, there was this slight like guilt like in your eyes. I thought like, and we all feel guilt because there's this passion which is selfish to be a business owner, but then there's this beautiful responsibility to be a parent. Have you ever experienced guilt when it comes to being a business owner and also having to be a parent?
Definitely, this. I mean, you want to be there for your kids, but you are also trying. I'm also trying to create a a better position in life for them. So there's a bit of a balance. I try to make it to school meetings. I try to spend a lot of time with them, and I mean, it comes with the territory, especially as well. I think as a dad is, I mean, you need to provide for your family. So there's no point. Everybody's going to have their own level of. I need to spend this much time with the kids. I don't think I love my kids, but I also like what I do. And if I forced myself to spend as much time with him as possible, and I neglected neglected the work, neglected the business, that wouldn't make like
Mm,
I would not be happy within myself, and I don't think that would be sustainable because they at least if I'm working hard, they can see like okay. That is something that he's aspiring to. He's working towards something and he's motivated to do something. And I hope that also leaves some sort of like that motivates them to do more depending on their personality. Like
mm,
they say, okay, if you work or if you put the effort in, if you try this and you keep working, it's worth putting the effort in and getting somewhere in life. And like you said, you
mm.
can't get everything, so you have to choose your hard.
It's that fine line between being selfish and selfless, because you're saying it's important that you're selfish about your own ambitions so that you can translate this message to your children that I'm actually not being fully selfish because the efforts are actually selfless, but it does take away from time with them, which is such a tough thing. Just hearing that, because yeah, it's a juggle. Some parents will be like, yeah, like it's so tough. I wish I had more time for my kids, but I have to do this thing. But then other people will be like, no, you don't. Like you're just addicted to being a business owner because you want this like adrenaline rush, you want money. But someone that doesn't have kids, I'll never really know until you're in that hot seat. You know, um, I don't know.
That's
How do you feel
true.
about that?
And each child has a different personality. So some need you to spend more time with them, and some don't. They all need you to spend a little bit of time with them. But you also have to parent for the child that you have, and not be like not care about what other people's opinions are. Like do your best. There's like when I think of, I understand my parents a lot more, and I understand my dad a lot more now than when I was younger. And I didn't spend a lot of time with him because he was working. Like I spend more time with my kids, I'm sure, than he did. But I understand why he did what he did now. It's like it makes a lot more sense now because he was providing for the family, and because of it, we managed to get where we were. So I'm very thankful. And like I said, nobody's gonna get it. I always tell my wife, you're gonna scar your kid in some way, you know, because you're different. They got personalities. I'm not saying you should. I'm not saying you should. I'm not saying you should try. I'm just saying people have different personalities. If you do one thing, they're gonna say, "Why didn't you do this?" Or you didn't. You could have done this a better way. We are all human. We all make mistakes. You're gonna scar your kid in some way, as long as it's not a bad. Like, do your best. Do what you can do. Do your best in the moment. And your best doesn't mean give all your time. It means do your best as much as you can with what you can.
Yeah, yeah. Talking about scars, how did your parents scar you?
No, I'm not going to say that. No, it's just different. I mean, they come from a different generation. My parents were boomers.
Yeah,
It's like you work. They're very strict. Um, I got hidings when I needed to get hidings. So,
yeah,
and I suppose that's everyone who grew up at that time. It was just one of those
yeah,
things.
exactly. Yeah,
So it comes with the territory. And made me it made me the person that I am today. So I'm not.
100%.
I'm not going to badmouth him.
No, I love that, Uwais. That just shows that you're a good son. But it's so true that your parents are just humans at the end of the day. You know, they're going through this journey, learning along the way. You know, your first child, of course, is going to get different treatment from the fourth child because, you know, this is your fourth time over. But the unconditional love and support is invaluable. So maybe that can also be something that like I learned from. Like, what's the biggest piece of advice you have received from somebody, you know, maybe recently or in the past around managing this relationship between business and family?
I guess don't be too hard on yourself. There's, like I said, there's no perfect way to parent. There's no perfect way to do work. There's a way that you might find that could be very different to somebody else, and shouldn't be too hard on yourself. Just do what you can, do the best that you can, and do. I mean, as long as you're trying, you're going to make mistakes, and that's okay.
I like that. I like that. But it's it's almost an oxymoron. Or let's say, if I'm understanding correctly, it's like you have to choose your hard, but don't be too hard on yourself. um, but with the in between about choosing your hard and you know, not being too hard, I think that's filling that gap with planning, good habits, routine. What are some of those habits and routines that help the choice that you've made and the way you want to live easier in your world?
I think exercise is very important.
Practically. Yeah.
I like running, so I'm lazy to go to the gym. Just I don't know why I can't get myself to go to the gym. But so let's go for a run. I try to run like 3 times a week. It helps me decompress. So you have to have some sort of. I mean, and if you don't, if you get to my age, like things start going wrong. Like you'll start getting pains in your neck. So you have to try and keep fit. So yeah, so keeping fit is very important. Keeping healthy is very important. So getting enough sleep is very important. I don't subscribe to wake up at 4 a.m. and grind, or go to sleep at midnight and wake up at 4. There might be some people who can do that, but that doesn't mean everybody should do that. Like I try to, and I try to get at least 6, preferably 7 or 8 hours sleep every day. Uh, it's not always doesn't always work out with a baby, but broken sleep is better than no sleep. So trying to get
Yeah.
sleep, trying to I want to say eat well, but I like my ice cream every now and then, and I like my chocolates every now and then. So I'm not gonna pretend to say that I eat completely healthy, although my wife gives me very healthy food. So I'm not gonna complain about that. But yeah, eating healthy helps. And exercise. I think you have to have hobbies that are not what you do every day, because then
Mm,
those things don't always go well at work. So you need an outlet outside of that, because otherwise everything is just going to be going wrong. So at least you have, okay, I'm going to go for a run later. For me, I know I started this very like when I was working, when I started my career. Monday nights, like everybody complains about Blue Mondays, but Monday nights I know I'm having a bowl of ice cream, so I have something to look forward to every Monday. Doesn't matter which. So my Mondays are never as blue, because I've got something to look forward to.
Yeah, let's. I was going to ask you. So, what's the one thing you want your children to learn about how you are going about your professional life and your personal life? What's that one thing that you want your children to take away?
The one thing that I want my kids to know is find something that you enjoy and do that. Obviously, like learn a skill, whether it's in varsity or something that's worth getting a job that pays decently, always helps. But even if you do it in your spare time, as you say, find something that you enjoy and do that, and don't do it halfway in terms of, oh, I feel like doing it today and I don't feel like. If you know something you're good at and you enjoy, go all in. I'd rather they try it and it didn't work than, for example, not having regrets later in life. So at least they can say if they tried it, it didn't work. And who says it's not going to work? It might work, or you might learn something about yourself that will help you in the next thing. So try something out. If you've got an itch and you need to scratch it, do it. Learn a new skill. Try something new. You never know what you can learn from it.
Nice. I love that. Uwais, this has been a brilliant conversation. But before you go, I've got one last question, but I want to play a game with you. Right? So it's an either or game. Either this or either that. Right? Because I know you and I'm going to push hard, I think we can get this done in 30 seconds. I normally give my guests 1 minute, but I think you can do this in 30 seconds. Are you ready?
Under pressure. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. All right. So there's about 6 categories and it's either this or that. You can't say pass and you have to answer. All right. 3, 2, 1, go. Food, sweet or savory?
Savory.
Travel, beach vacation or mountain adventure? Quicker.
Beach vacation.
Relationship, spontaneous date night out or a planned getaway?
Planned getaway.
Fitness, morning workout or evening run?
Evening run.
Mindset, meditation or journaling? 5 seconds.
Journal.
Learning, podcast or books?
Podcast.
Oh my goodness, you just made it. You just made it. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Uwais, as we close off, I just want to say thank you so much for teaching me, inspiring me, challenging me to rethink, family, business, because you're a few steps ahead of me. And just by listening to you express yourself did put some peace in my heart, but also did challenge me because this thing isn't easy. Life isn't easy. And with that, I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much. And the last question I want to just ask is, what's next for you? What's next on the cards and where can we find you?
What's next for me is I don't know. I'm on a journey. I'm going, like I say, I try different things. If something works out, I go for it. If it doesn't, so we're still figuring out what's next. And you can find me most actively on LinkedIn. I do a weekly live every week, and I post daily on LinkedIn as well. So you can reach out to me there. I'm also on YouTube and X, but mostly LinkedIn. So you can find me on LinkedIn.
I can attest to that. You've got a beautiful LinkedIn brand. You are a LinkedIn guru. You're a viral king. You're funny, you're witty, you're knowledgeable. So I'll leave your LinkedIn page in the show notes. But again, Uwais, thank you so much and good luck with business and family. Much love, brother.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Cheers.